Shalom, shalom. First off, I want to give all the honor, all the glory, and all the praise to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakak Wadash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well, whose labors we have entered into, to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. To you, I say shalom, and to all the brothers and sisters that may be tuning in, may this lesson be edifying. There's the brother Halal from the Great Millstone Chicago camp. And this devil Esau Edom has been trying to completely destroy us, destroy our entire nation through various ways. Whether it be physically, psychologically, or the main topic we're gonna dive into in this lesson, which is through biological warfare. Which is when Esau Edom will poison the environment around you, in order to slowly destroy your body over time, man. And when you do research on, these Edomite government agencies, like the one I'm about to show you in this lesson, you find out that this devil has always been trying to destroy us, man, whether it be in one way or another. So I'm going to let this video play. May this lesson be edifying.
The CIA literally wrote down how they were going to poison the food supply, and not theoretically. They planned it, and then they did it, and nobody stopped them. Project Artichoke, CIA, 1951. The stated goal, it was to determine whether a person could be involuntarily made to perform an act of attempted assassination. But that's not the part that should scare you. The memo proposes hiding behavior-altering chemicals in food, in water, in Coca-Cola, in beer, in cigarettes, in vaccines, all administered without detection, without consent. Their words, not mine. Look at page 4. Look at that list. Look at the ingredients in your cereal, in your water, in the baby formula on your shelf. And ask yourself whether the program ended or whether it just got a marketing department. This is why I use Oasis. Point it at anything you're about to eat. It shows you exactly what's inside. Independent lab data, no brand influence, just the information.
Yeah, and then he promotes, this app, which you can use to scan, ingredients. But that was the main point of this lesson, man. The CIA had been running experiments on people by putting what he called behavior altering chemicals into the food, man. Which is what we see on all of these labels on the back of products that people consume on a daily basis, man. These foods contain literal behavioral altering chemicals, man. And when you look at the ingredients, you notice the majority of food products that are served in Babylon the Great, in America, they contain, paragraph essays of ingredients, man. With all kinds of bullshit. Like these words you see on this label look like pharmacy pills, man. Some of these words sound like diseases. Niacinamide, dextrose. People, the average American couldn't name any of the functions of these ingredients, man. They don't even know why they're there. But this devil Esau Edom, man, he's always tried to fuck with us, man, and kill us off. And one of, the most effective ways for him to do that is through biological warfare. Because most people still don't know that everything that they consume in this place is poison. But this is Sirach 39 and 26, and it says, the principal things for the whole use of a man's life are water, fire, iron, and salt, flour of wheats, honey, milk, and the blood of the grape, and oil and clothing. Right, these are all essential things that the majority of us use every day. You got to drink water, order to hydrate yourself properly. You use fire to cook food. All these things are essential, products that we use on a daily basis, man. Verse 27, all these things are for good to the godly, so to the sinners they are turned into evil. And Esau Edom has turned all of these essential things of life against us, man. to be for our, detriment instead of to actually heal us, because food is medicine. In its original state, when you read the scriptures, you read about the book of Daniel, when the men of the Lord were eating the fruit, how it says that their faces appeared healthier than those that ate the king's meat. Food itself is a herb. But Esau Edom, he has these synthetic pills, these pills that only get rid of the symptoms but don't actually cure you. And he markets that as medicine, man. And then he poisons the food that was actually meant to be medicine and be sufficient for our bodies. This is the book of Isaiah chapter 24 and 4. And it says, the earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languisheth and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. And this is the state that the world is in, man. Like it says in Proverbs 29:2. Let's go to that real quick. It says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked bear fruit, the people mourn. And what is the average American doing right now? They're in a state of mourning. The majority of these people hate their lives. They hate their jobs. They hate their spouse. And are hanging on by a thread, until they eventually crash out and, take somebody out and end up going to prison, man. The average Babylonian is slowly, starting to lose their mind as these gas prices go up, as inflation starts to, turn into hyperinflation. But I want to get the word for languisheth in verse 4 when it says the earth mourneth and languisheth, and it's the Hebrew word amal, and it says to be weak, to droop, to languish, to be exhausted, to be weak or to grow feeble. Right, and a very important reason why this earth is getting weaker is because Esau Edom poisons the environment. The plants, the foods, the proteins, the fruits, the vegetables, everything. The animals are no longer, finding efficient vegetation. You got species dying out, turtles being found with herpes and diseases, whales beaching themselves, washing up on the shores, man. Verse 5, the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. And Esau Edom has done those three things, man. They changed, the laws. They came over here to Babylon the Great, to what these people call America. They killed off the northern kingdom, the Gadites and the Reubenites, committed acts of genocide. And then when they established America, they changed the ordinance, they changed the times. Now we have leap years, and all these other different things, man, that are not biblical, not written within the law. And he it says, broken the everlasting covenant. Right, and Esau Edom has broken many covenants. Many treaties have been broken by this devil. And because of that, the people mourn. The earth is in a state of mourning. No wonder these people are crashing out and committing these crimes, man. These people are doing drugs, and on top of that, there are deadly chemicals in the food that's altering their behavior, man. And combine that with gangster rap, gang violence, an abusive, dysfunctional home. And what do you have? You have these YNs out here, man. This is why the earth is in the state that it's in, because of these devils and their biological warfare that they're waging on the world, and particularly on the Israelite, being the Israelite man first, because they understand that the man is the head, man. Let's get Psalms 32 and 7. And on that previous scripture we read, I wanted to clear this up too. In 24, it says, broken the everlasting covenant. Esau Edom, he hasn't broken the everlasting covenant, but there are many covenants, that Esau Edom has broken. Particularly when these Edomites first arrived to America, they made many treaties with the so-called natives, the Northern Kingdom, that they eventually broke, and then after that they killed them off, as many as they could. But going to Psalms 32 and 7. Matter of fact, no, Salakia. Let's see, Isaiah 32 and 7. Yeah, Isaiah 32 and 7, it says, the instruments of the churl are evil. He deviseth wicked devices to destroy the poor with lying words, even when the needy speaketh upright. So there are many snares, many wicked devices that Esau Edom has made for the purpose of destroying who? The poor. And in the earth, who does the poor represent? In this world where the Japanese have Japan, in this world where the Indians have India, what people are there on the earth that represent the poor that don't have their own land and their own inheritance? The Israelites, which are you so-called, which primarily consist of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Indians, and the Israelites that are scattered abroad among the heathen nations, man. And Esau Edom has made many wicked devices and snares to try to kill us off, because he wants that blessing, that Jacob took all those thousands of years ago. And in the back of his mind, he still believes that if he can kill us off, that he can get that blessing and rule as God. But that's not going to happen, man. Esau Edom is not going to be able to overcome what the Lord has set up. The Lord has set bounds that this devil cannot pass, man. And he's given us the power to endure all these things, man. To be able to eat poison and not die. Which leads me to this last scripture. Is Mark chapter 16. I'll start at 15, but the point is at 18. It says, and he said to them, this is Yahweh Shai speaking, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned. And when it said preach the gospel to every creature, it's really referring to every Israelite, scattered abroad. That's why in the book of Matthew, Yahweh Shai said, go and teach to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So when it says every creature, it's not referring to, all the heathens, it's referring to every Israelite, man. Because they're the only ones that have the covenant, that have, direct lineage, the ones that are the children of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. These other heathens, they don't have the covenants and the oracles of the law. Verse 17, and these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name they shall cast out devils. They shall speak with new tongues. They shall take up serpents. And if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. So, Yahweh Shai said that what? The righteous, those who have been given the wisdom to teach, that if they drunk any deadly thing, it will not hurt them, man. So these, the food that we eat, the liquids that we drink, in this polluted kingdom, it won't have any effect on us, man. Yahweh Shai already proclaimed that thousands of years ago. The Lord got us, man. The scripture said what? There is no enchantment against Jacob. These devils have many snares, many enchantments that they have set out for us. But through the power of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, none of those things will touch us, man. Lord willing, if we continue in this faith unto the very end. But with that, I want to give all honor, glory, and praise to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, Bashim Rakak Wadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. Until the next lesson, Shalom.